started our trip by crossing the northern tier of Chile, traveling west from Laca National Park to Putre to the Azapa Valley and then to Arica. Now we travel south to two river valleys. We found geoglyphs in the first valley. The ancient people of this area formed these glyphs on the sides of mountains by clearing and stacking rock. These rivers have their headwaters in the Andes and flow through the desert, where it never rains, to the ocean. Along the riverbank we found a number of species. The pectoral sandpiper breeds in the far north and spends the northern winter months in southern South America, Australia, and New Zealand. Although breeding birds are more or less evenly distributed between North America and Siberia, most individuals winter in South America. There are no races of pectoral sandpiper. A greater yellowlegs was with the pectoral sandpiper. Greater yellowlegs winter throughout Central and South America. During this time of year, it's found as far north as the southern U.S. Greater yellowlegs will usually feed by wading in water, sometimes up to their body. There are no races of greater yellowlegs. The American kestrel is widespread throughout the Americas. There are 3 subspecies in Chile. This is probably the subspecies peruvianus. The common moorhen, also known simply as moorhen, or in the past common gallinule, is found throughout the world, but generally not at this low of an elevation in Chile. The rufous-collared sparrow is found throughout most of Central and South America. We will see more of this species later. This common moorhen was busy feeding chicks. Most of the time the chicks remained hidden in the reeds, but came out to search for food. Traveling south from here, we visited a number of geoglyph sites. While visiting in this area, we stayed in the village of Pica, a really picturesque town. The giant of Atacama is over 80 meters high and one of the largest art objects in the world. As with most of the geoglyphs, they are generally undisturbed despite their lack of physical protection. Ventalara is the tourist site here, but Humberstone is the more interesting place. The nitrate miners completely devastated the landscape here, cutting down every living thing in this part of Chile. Besides denuding the landscape, the mining industry fouled most of the waterways in this area. Even though coastal towns are often on rivers, they have to import their water. because the rivers are poisoned with heavy metals. In addition to a number of other birds, all 3 flamingo species found in Chile are found near San Pedro de Atacama. The Chilean flamingo is found in most of southern South America. Note the upper bill color and the reddish knees and feet. The range of the Andean avocet is like that of the Andean and Puna flamingo. It's generally found at higher elevations than the other 3 avocet species. It seems to prefer alkaline lakes. The Andean flamingo has a range which extends from northern Chile northward to southern Peru. Flamingos are filter feeders and spend much of their time with their heads below their knees. Puna flamingo's range is similar to that of the Andean flamingo. In the past it was known as the James flamingo. It's smaller than the other two. Barred sandpiper breeds in the northern Americas and spends its non-breeding season in southern South America, where it's found as far north as Ecuador in the west. There are no races of barred sandpiper. The puna plover has a limited range in the central Andes. It's closely related to the two-banded plover. In fact, some consider them to be the same species. It's typically found at elevations between 4,000 and 5,000 meters. Its diet includes small crustaceans, which it finds in saline lakes. The Wilson's phalarope breeds in North America and spends the non-breeding period in South America. Unlike other phalaropes, it does not winter at sea. It feeds while swimming or wading, and there are no races of Wilson's phalarope. Leaving the area around San Pedro de Atacama, we journeyed to high-altitude lakes, where we saw some of the same species we saw further north, like crested duck and silvery grebe. The horned coot is found in the central Andes at elevations around 10,000 feet. In Chile, it is most easily found at these lakes. The ochre-naped ground tyrant is found along the Andes. There are two subspecies in Chile. This is the northern form, Glavenucha. The straight-billed earth creeper is found in the Andes above 10,000 feet. There are two subspecies in Chile. The range of the golden spotted ground dove is limited to the Puna zone of the central Andes. These high-altitude lakes are surrounded by mountains which rise to 17,000 feet. The highest vegetation at this altitude is only a couple feet tall, but bird life is prolific and includes the Andean gull. It is found in the high Andes of Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and in northern Argentina and Chile. Sometimes it's found along the coast. From here we headed back to San Pedro de Atacama, where we found one of the two subspecies of burrowing owl in Chile. Burrowing owls are found throughout the Americas. In the trees nearby there were eared dove. The eared dove is found throughout South America and is the most common dove in Chile. This thrush is found in Bolivia, Peru, Ecuador, and Argentina. It's possible that this is the subspecies Anthracynus. It stayed deep within the brush and occasionally sang. Traveling south 650 kilometers, we reached the Parque Nacional Pan de Azúcar, Sugarloaf National Park. This is a beautiful park just north of Chañarel, and it's a location where you can find Peruvian penguin. There are a few houses here where you can catch a small boat out to the Isla Pan de Azúcar, the island where the penguins are found. The boats are pushed ashore on the incoming wave, you jump through the water, and climb aboard. On the way out to the island, we passed a Peruvian booby rookery. Watching birds from a small boat in the sea is always a challenge. We would have better views of this species later. The island is known as a prime roosting area, the largest in Chile, for Peruvian penguin. The Peruvian penguin, which is also known as Humboldt penguin, is found in a limited area along the west coast of South America. In amongst the penguins, there were a few Peruvian pelicans and red-legged cormorants. Turning the corner of the island, we found fur seals resting on rocks. Coming back ashore, we had nice views of the village and then spent some time watching boats row out to the bay. On shore, we again found band-tailed gull. The kelp gull, seen here on the right, is found in much of the southern hemisphere. This is the subspecies Dominicus. Kelp gull is also referred to as Dominican gull and the southern black-backed gull. The seaside Zinclodius is found primarily in Chile, although it is sometimes found as far north as Peru. Birds of this family are found only in Central and South America. On one rock we found Peruvian pelicans Peruvian booby, and red-legged cormorant. The Peruvian pelican dominates the other birds perched nearby, with which it is often found. The Peruvian pelican is also known as the Chilean pelican. Some people consider it to be a subspecies of brown pelican. The Peruvian booby is found along the central portion of the west coast of South America. Like a number of other seabirds in this area, its range is defined by the Humboldt Current. Its population is in decline due to the overfishing of anchovy. The red-legged cormorant, or red-legged shag, is found along the west coast of South America and a small portion of the east coast. The ruddy turnstone is found in coastal areas throughout much of the world. The British refer to it simply as turnstone. Also in the area were blackish oystercatcher, which we had seen further north, and whimbrel. Wimborel found along the ocean shore throughout much of the world. They feed on both sandy and rocky reaches, where they sometimes feed on crab. The turkey vulture is found throughout North and South America. There were a number of these birds perched along this section of shore.
The seaside Synclodius and Wimborel were looking for small meals. This kelp-gull, on the other hand, had a starfish-sized meal in mind. In a sandy section of the beach, we found American oystercatcher, black-bellied plover, and sanderling. American oystercatcher is found in coastal areas of South and Central America, the Caribbean, and the eastern U.S. There are 5 subspecies. This is the subspecies pitney, found along the west coast of South America. Sanderlings are found along the coastal areas of most of the southern hemisphere. They breed in the far north, nesting as close as 500 miles to the pole. They prefer sandy habitat like this, but can also be found on mudflats. They typically return to the same wintering ground year after year. Black-bellied plover is found in coastal areas throughout most of the world. In addition to the names listed here, it is also known as the silver plover. Despite this extensive range, there are no races, although there is a size variation, Pacific birds being larger than Atlantic. Traveling south, we stopped for the night in Vallenar. The next morning, we birded the park along the river, finding long-tailed meadowlark, picue ground dove, and shiny cowbird. Long-tailed meadowlark are found throughout most of Chile, being absent only in the far north. The ones we saw here were feeding in the grassy section along the river.
Shiny cowbird is another species which is found primarily to the east of the Andes. In central Chile, its population extends across the Andes. Its range has been extending into the U.S. in recent years, and like the brown-headed cowbird of North America, it lays eggs in the nest of other species. Picu ground dove are found primarily to the east of the Andes. There is a population which is found in the central part of Chile. This separate population is not a separate race, however. Leaving the park, we headed south again, stopping after a while at an unnamed canyon. Here we found band-tailed sierra finch, which we had seen further north, and Chilean mockingbird. Both species were coming to a trickle of water in the bottom of the gulch. The range of the Chilean mockingbird is limited to central Chile. In our next volume, we have more extensive views of this species. At the Baranicas River crossing, we found a number of species, including common duca finch, mustache turca, long-tailed meadowlark, giant hummingbird, Chilean mockingbird, plain-mantled tit-spine-tail, and gray-hooded sierra finch. The common duca finch is found primarily in Argentina and Chile. There are 3 subspecies in Chile. This bird, as you can see, was feeding on the fruit of local cactus species. The giant hummingbird is found in the Andes, usually between 1 and 4,000 meters. It's found in Chile, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Argentina. There are 2 subspecies in Chile. This is the subspecies gigas. As we will see later, its flight is dramatic for a hummingbird. Mustache turca is an endemic found only in central Chile. Even in this limited range, there are 2 subspecies. The plain-mantled spinetail is found in much of western South America. There are 4 subspecies in Chile. This is the only individual of this species we saw on this trip. The gray-hooded Sierra finch is found in southern Chile and Argentina, and north along the Andes to northern Chile. There are 3 subspecies in Chile. With the lizard, we end this volume. In our next volume, we start birding a few miles south of here. For Natural Video, good birding.